I believe, I believe, I believe. Oh yeah, listen to them. They all believe. Everybody believes, you know. I believe in the tooth fairy, you know. I believe in evolution, you know. I believe that seatbelts save lives, you know. I believe. Everybody, you know. It doesn't matter who they are. Young, old, men, women, everybody's the same. Everybody says the same thing. They can't have a conversation without saying, well, I believe. And then the guy answers, well, I believe in UFOs. You know, and then, well, I believe in forest fairies. Well, I believe it's gonna rain. Well, I believe I gotta go to the bathroom, you know? I mean, I believe anything, you know? People just believe, believe, believe. What does it mean when a person says, I believe? You know, the words actually mean things, if you haven't considered that. But words actually mean things. You know, if you say that you believe, right? Well, like the Bible says, you know, the demons of hell believe in God, but it ain't doing them any good. I believe, he says. Everybody believes. Belief is a secondary. It's not a primary. You just look at the words subjective and objective, or subjectivity versus objectivity. You should consider these two words. They're pivotal in everything, in every daily conversation. Every thought that you have is based on it's like the beginning of choice. Is it subjective or is it objective? And that's the place you have to start. So when you look up the word subjective or subjectivity, it means that it exists only in a person's mind. It has no basis in truth. It has no basis in fact. It's just a fantasy. It's not real. It's not measurable. It's not provable. It's just a theory. It doesn't have any basis in all of creation, in all of the universe. The subjective thought is only a person's opinion. Subjectivity is only a person's opinion. Now, objectivity, on the other hand, is a thing called truth or facts. You can have an idea and then you can prove it. It's a fact. For instance, we've all seen a show, you know, at some point in our lives, you know, where there's this girl or there's this guy, you know, and he climbs to the top of a building and he says, I believe I can fly. Now, he's probably on drugs. The particular show I'm thinking about, it was this girl and she was on drugs. She's all stoned and she thinks, I can fly. I can fly. She believed that she could fly. I believe I can fly. So she steps off the edge, and guess what? Even though she believed she could fly, she was dead. Gravity is the truth. Gravity is real. Gravity is a fact. You can lie to yourself and you can say that you don't believe in gravity, but guess what? Gravity's real. Gravity is objective. Gravity is the truth. Just one, you know, there's just but it's a measurable fact. So I've seen this there's this bad boys, you know, we're gonna get you cop shows, you know, yeah, extreme videos or something, I don't know what it was. There's this kid, you know, as young men, you know, I did the same exact thing, you know. You get to be an age as a young man, you know, like 20 years old, and you really think, man, you have all the answers. You think you got everything figured out, you know, and you're going to straighten the world out. You're going to, whatever, you know. And here's this kid in South America. He's about 20 years old. And in South America, you know, it's not as developed as, say, the United States of America, right? But they have cities and towns. They have electricity and running water and all that kind of stuff inside of their cities and towns. But here about, you know, 20 years ago, because they've done a lot of development, you know, and really helping out the people a lot, you know, down there in South America, you know, to try to, you know, get their economics up. You know, they've done a lot of good things down there. But before that, I'm speaking, you know, in those terms, there was still a lot of people living outside of the cities. Outside of the influence of the cities. And for lack of a better word, I'm just going to call them villagers. You know, they live in these little villages way up in the mountains, you know. For them, you know, 10 miles out of town is way out because they don't have cars. You know, everywhere they go, they got to go on a donkey or on a horse, you know. They're not aboriginal in the sense, in that type of sense. They're just, you know, they have city clothes and stuff like that. They buy supplies from the city, but they're villagers. Okay? So anyway, here's this kid. He comes out of the village, and his belief system, what he believes, has been based on superstitions. You know, they still have witch doctors and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's a very archaic, superstitious belief system. They're not exposed like, say, people in more developed countries are. So here this kid comes into town, he's 20 years old, and he sees these lights, you know, and he wants to know. And the people that live in the city, you know, think this is great fun, you know, playing with this kid's head, you know, because he's never seen electricity, he's never seen lights, he's never been exposed to facts or truth. So they show him how the lights work, you know, and switches on and off, and they explain that the electricity comes through the wires and, you know, provides power to illuminate the bulb. The kid doesn't believe it. He can see it with his own eyes, but he cannot see electricity. All he can see is this is witchcraft. In his mind, this is witchcraft. And he's got to straighten these people out. He's going to prove it to them. He's going to prove it to all these people. And so a crowd is kind of developing around this kid, you know, because he's making a scene. You're all believing witchcraft. This is witchcraft. And they're like, no, see? And they take him outside. And they show him the great, big, thick power lines, you know, that are supplying all these buildings. Oh, man. It's witchcraft. There's no electricity. I don't believe. And I'm going to prove it to you. And everybody's got their cameras out and they're watching this kid. And they're saying, don't go up there. And at the same rate, everybody wants him to go up there, you know. You know how people are. So he climbs the building. And he's only 10 feet up in the air, 12 feet in the air, something like that. He goes over to the power line. And he's going to touch it. And the people down below, there's this big crowd. You can see all the cameras, you know. Don't touch it, don't touch it. But at the same time, you know, everybody's saying, you know, I hope he does. And so there he goes. Puts his hands on there. I'm going to prove it to you. I don't believe that there's any electricity. I'm going to prove it to you. Puts his hands on the connecting at the transformer where it connects. And guess what? Electricity is real. That kid melted. He lived. And there was no sparks. He was really, really fortunate because the electricity just passed, you know, electricity can go through your body and that kills you. Or it can stay on the surface of your body. And he was just really fortunate. God just had total grace and mercy on this kid. And the electricity passed over through his whole body. And he fell. You know, like I said, it had to have been at least 12 feet in the air, right down to the pavement. Just, he looked dead. He totally looked dead. The ambulance comes, picks him up, and the cameras are still rolling, and he comes back into consciousness. And they said, well, what do you think about electricity now? And he says, well, something knocked me off of that building. You know, and that's a kid, he learned the truth. You know, he was really fortunate. You know, he learned and he lived, and he realized that the truth is outside of a person. Where the vast majority of people in any culture, they prefer the truth that they have invented inside of their own minds, called subjectivity, their opinion. They prefer their own opinion to the truth, to the provable and factual truth. Objectivity versus subjectivity. And that's your choice. What are you going to believe? Are you going to believe in your own opinion? Or are you going to believe in the truth? You know, I asked these kids, you know, I was teaching this class, you know, it was a high school history class. Proposed the question to them. They said, how many religions are there in the world? You know, and everybody's mind was just racing because there's so many religions, you know, and I would define a religion as a path or a way of getting to heaven, because everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to go to hell. And so everybody, you know, I mean, I mean, the number of names and variations upon different religious groups is, you know, of course, very vast. And after a while, you know, I stopped them all. And I said, there's two. There are only two religions on the entire planet. All the nations, all the cultures, all the people can be boiled down into two religions. There's God's way, and there's man's way. You can believe anything you want. You can believe your own opinion. But Jesus says, anyone who wants to get to the Father has got to go through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me, Jesus Christ. Anyone who tries to enter the kingdom of heaven by a different way will be treated as a thief. That's a fact. So yeah, you know, you can believe whatever you want to believe. You can even believe the truth.